What's going on, guys? Evan the Dark Souls 2 enthusiast here, bringing the Dark Souls 2 gameplay commentary, and this time we're going to be going through the Shaded Woods and doing her Scorpioness boss and some other things like that. No new channel updates. You can check the last video for those. And since people have been asking, I do want to inform everyone, yes, this is a nearly complete Let's Play of all the areas in the game, grabbing almost every drop in every area, things like that. So yeah, this will be a complete Let's Play with post-game commentary, and after I finish this, I'm not sure what the next big thing I do with this game is. I've got some ideas, but they're, my ideas are high-quality productions, which would take a lot of time between uploads. So it'd be like, maybe, it'd take probably a month to a month and a half to make the video I really want to make for this game. But we'll talk more about that at another time. So I have roughly 35-40 minutes of commentary in here, time to do commentary rather, and I kind of want to have what it might be a controversial topic. I am prepared for some flame comments and probably some support, who knows. But I found I do my commentary, I've got opinions and I like to share them, but I try not to make blanket sweeping statements. I accept that most things are a matter of preference in the world. Especially it seems like in the modern age, everyone's sort of adopting this ideology in everything they do where it's all preference and how I feel is my business. And to a point I can be on board with that. The live and let live thing, if you're not hurting others, that's your business. I feel you on that. But, I think that there is a lack of objectivity and analysis in the world. And the problem when you make statements like that is it implies that you have some greater objectivity than others. And it's not really some sort of I'm better than you or you're better than me. It's not really meant to be like that. My point is I'm trying to say that someone can look at a game objectively, look at anything objectively, and try to give a review, and they can state their preference, state the reasons behind their preference, and if everyone in the room is reasonable, and I'm just going to go on a limb here and say not a moron, then we can actually reach a point where we can influence others effectively. And there is a reason why some games flop and some games do well. There's a reason some movies flop and some movies do well. You'll find there is a person out there that likes every movie or every game. But ultimately, there is defining characteristics that make a game good or bad. And popularity is not the overall measure, although it is a factor, but not one I really want to discuss or touch on. So where am I going with this? Is this a commentary about the human condition, human perspective, human society? Not really. While I found those topics really fascinating, that's not what I'm going to be talking about today. Actually, I want to talk about why I think objectively the PvP in this game is a joke. And that's not to say I don't PvP. I jump on and I PvP from time to time. I've probably got about 700 matches between all my different characters. I know, not that high of a number, but I definitely think there's a lot of I read the Redditor army and the GameFAQs army, and so I've seen just about every community argument ever conceived, and it's to the point now where no one's really giving original arguments, and neither am I. I'm not giving original arguments. So, I kind of want to address some of the frequent defenses and criticisms I hear surrounding the PvP, and reasons I think it's bunk, and reasons I think it holds this game back. This is not a discussion of what FromSoft should patch, things like that. I don't think FromSoft gives a flying crap about the community feedback, honestly. That's fine. I can respect that. I don't mind that they generally seem disinterested in what the community has to say. I can handle that. But without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into it and start listing the things that I think ruin this game's PvP. And let me just preface, I am aware that all of this is counterable in one way or another, and just because somebody has these things doesn't mean they're unbeatable. What I'm talking about is the kind of crap that sort of makes the game unfun. Even if you can beat it or you can't beat it, it makes the game unfun, at least to me. So these are the reasons I think the PvP is crap, and I think objectively some of these, you can't really argue with them. Like, maybe you can try, but I think that some of these statements are just not really negotiable because they're observations about how the PvP is shaping up now that we've had time to see it develop and things like that. And by the way, none of this covers the fight clubs. This is the gambit of typical invasions / dragon summons, things like that. So a lot of design choices won't be covered in this commentary because I could probably do a 12-hour upload if I wanted to cover every little nuance of Dark Souls 2, but that's not the goal here. The goal here is to cover the things that I think are the most egregious in the time I have allotted. Some of these come down to inconveniences, and some of these come down into game-breaking garbage. So let's jump in. So the PvP nightmare, or quote-unquote metagame. Okay, so I'm going to sort of read off a laundry list of items / weapons / rings that I think detract from the experience of PvP, regardless of who you are. And if you're one of those people that just likes to stomp everybody, and you're not particularly interested in actually having a good game, you're interested in having a game where you can beat people down, then this conversation probably isn't for you. I mean, if you're just win at all costs, I suggest you pick a game that's not Dark Souls to go take that out. Like, if you've got a game where you're really willing to actually put some time and knowledge into just stomping people with reason, like, go play EVE Online, where you can actually really ruin somebody's day. You know, you destroy somebody's ships on EVE Online, you know, they could be out months of work in a flash. So there you go. There's where you should be. If you just want to grief and destroy and be all of that, go play EVE. Now, unfortunately, it requires a little bit of skill to stomp people on, unlike this game. So that might be why it's not popular. Or go play StarCraft, a game where if you're actually really good at it, you can stream and make money and all the things. So if you are just win at all costs, and I love to invade and crush people with all my stupid junk, that's cool. You know, I'm not going to fault that. There's people like that in every game, and I've been that guy in a couple games. But I just got to say, this is probably not objectively the best game to do it on, particularly because the learning curve on it is so slim for a lot of builds. But anyway, first item of a violation would be the Monastery Scimitar. So most people have known about this now, some people don't, but it is obviously a scimitar, and it parries like most scimitars do. All the scimitars, I believe. You know, if you put them in your offhand, you can parry them like with a parrying dagger. Pretty cool feature. You know, I have no problem with that. It was a pretty good thing to do to those weapons that made dual wielding more viable in theory, or at least it was supposed to. But because the Monastery Scimitar is almost like an Easter egg / broken as hell item that has a huge parry window and an instant parry activation. So for those of you familiar with parrying, you know, that should be everyone watching this video, but you know, essentially you tap the parry button, you have a window of invincibility that if a player hits you, you know, you get to counter them for outrageous damage, and it's all the fun, and it's somewhat skill intensive. That is one of the more skill intensive parts of Dark Souls 1, which is beating the lag with your skill versus your weapon familiarity and landing your parries. So Dark Souls 2 with the Monastery Scimitar, no, that's not a thing. It's so fast, and the window is so long, and combined with the backstep strategy, which is you can backstep out of most attacks and backstep, and cause an instant parry. Basically, the premise is you backstep, hit the parry, and you have an instant parry with no delay, uninterruptible. Bam, you parry the weapon. It's broken. It's not really even up for debate. It is the next level parrying strategy. It is the easiest way to parry. It is no problem. It is undisputably broken as hell. So part of it's the backstep problem in the design. The other problem is just the weapon and the parry window is stupid. And you know, I think it's you know, rookie developer mistakes, because the Monastery Scimitar is a pain in the ass to farm. I mean, we're talking burning Bonfire Aesthetics in New Game Plus, in Aldea's Keep, just to get this thing. I mean, unless you're muling or whatever, hacking, that's your business. But if you're getting it legitimately, it's a pretty unpleasant experience to farm some of the ultra rare sets in the game. And I think this is one of those classic rookie / unexperienced game developer that has this, you know, producer, director, whatever, who on the staff, but whoever had the idea that because it's really rare, we can make it really, really overpowered, right? I mean, that's genius, isn't it? Yeah. So, yeah, this is not Dark Souls games are not meant to be grindfest. Souls games have never been about grindfesting. In Dark Souls 2, some of the items have taken on sort of a grindfest for some of the hidden, exclusive, next-level items. So, huge complaint with the Monastery Scimitar. It's stupid, and I don't think we're going to see a patch to it. I think we're just going to have to put up with it, but it's going to invalidate many, many weapons in PvP, make them downright useless, and it's going to form a meta where you have to use weapons that are unparryable versus anybody that has a scimitar. And man, you want to talk about a lack of build diversity? Man, Dark Souls 2, you've come to the right place. Okay, so Countering the Monastery Scimitar, since I want to do a counter series for each of these, you would want to use a Sylvan's Halberd or something with a lot of reach on it, something that's difficult to parry / unparryable. Actually Great Shield beatdown is actually an option, or you could just slap on all Havels and put on some Avelins, and you can have an Avelin fight if you're into that. So there are ways around it, but it invalidates a huge myriad of strategies. Maybe spam some magic and hope you hit them with the magic. That's always an option. Okay, so next up, the infusion imbalances / the damage imbalance. In Dark Souls 2, there is no good reason not to be rocking a magic, frankly. Because, and this is already a flawed premise, I know, but we're going to base this premise around you want to stop between soul level 150 to 200. And that's pretty generous. I mean, sure, you could go all the way to max, and that's another problem with this game, but let's just assume you want to stop around there, because that's the typical end of new game plus period. So you want to have a pretty functional / almost complete character at that point, and the rest is just gravy, right? I think that's a reasonable assumption. So with that said, you will do far more damage picking up a magic than not. Whereas in Dark Souls 1, if you had 40 strength, 40 dexterity, but no magics, that's alright because your quality build did lots and lots of damage. Quality build is very viable. Non-magic PvP is fun. Magic PvP is fun too. I use magic sometimes, but non-magic PvP, I think for me, has the most depth to it as combat, in my opinion. And, once again, in this game, the elemental infusions, even with semi-crappy scaling, will probably outdamage a quality build. So that's stupid. There's no reason to design your game like that. It's just like in Dark Souls 1 when lightning weapons were essentially better than anything not lightning if you're building your character correctly. So the only thing that kind of works against this is Great Magic Barrier, and everyone uses Great Magic Barrier in PvP to deal with the weapon buffs and the weapons, and all physical damage is not affected by Great Magic Barrier. So just because everybody rocks Great Magic Barrier, I guess it's kind of effective against the meta, I suppose, but that doesn't mean the game should be that way. Best way to counter that is just to max out on all your elemental defenses as much as you can. Tank up. Once again, Havelin, Havels. You could always rock some Avelins, which is pretty much on every build these days, is the Avelin. So yeah, the build balance is pretty lacking in my opinion. And I've done a lot of builds now, and I've legitimately leveled them through the single player. I'm not just the guy that's booting up a mule account and trying builds real quick. And if you're into that, that's your business too. I'm not into that, so I've got 20 plus hours using these weapons against regular enemies as well. It's not just PvP, and let me tell you, it's not a fair world out there. Elemental infusion is unfortunately the way to go. Particularly hexes, but they're all good for different things. So let's talk about the hexes here a little bit. I hate these things. I've used them, I have a whole character around them. I have my hexer character. They're fun, they're really, really good. I'm not going to say they break the single player any more or any less than, say, Faith or Sorcery does. It's probably truly a matter of opinion, but for PvP, magic-wise, I think, objectively, I gotta say, hexes are the best bet. And yes, I know, we can all block it with a shield, we can all roll through it, we can all counter these things. Everything is theoretically counterable. Unfortunately, no one is going to convince me that they don't take losses to Great Resonant Soul. And no one is going to convince me that Great Resonant Soul isn't the best PvP magic. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there, and I'm not considering buffs. There's a lot of good stuff out there, but in terms of just a ranged attack, Great Resonant Soul is where it's at. Yeah, you can roll through it. Yeah, you can block it with a shield. All sorts of answers to it, but it doesn't change the fact that Great Resonant Soul is the defining ranged magic, in my opinion. And, I'd like to see somebody challenge that objectively. I mean, it's probably one of the harder spells to roll through. Not necessary to block, but none of them are really necessarily hard to block. And while we're on the subject of hexes, Bat Staff plus Dark Fog, that's either a glitch or these developers are morons, essentially. For those of you that don't know, when you equip a Bat Staff and you use Dark Fog, basically you instantly poison whoever's in it. Now, on the off chance they have outrageous poison resists, you just use it one more time and they're guaranteed poison. And then you have a poisoned opponent. It's not defendable. Even if you're mashing roll, you will not get out of it in time. There's no defense against it. It's just instant poison. So when people want to win, bad staff, dark fog, get poisoned, no counter. I can't advise a counter. Counter is to chug your flasks and just become a completely craptastic duel. Duel's even a stretch. Next big offender is the infinite stun locks. Yes, Dark Souls 2 has truly unbreakable infinite stun locks. Not all the weapon combinations that cause it are known. However, it is confirmed that there are weapons, a lot of them involve lances that I know of, that can instantly stun lock and kill you. I mean, until the player runs out of stamina, there is no escaping the stun lock. Typically involves a dual wielding combination where a faster weapon will hit, then a heavier weapon will hit, and you'll just keep alternating attacks, and you permanently stun lock your opponent. That is stupid. There are counters against it in the game, but I don't think those things are designed to counter it so much as that's just a design oversight where no attention was paid to the PvP and the design of this game. I mean, I think that's evident by many of the things found within this game. We're entering the era where the game should just revolve around invasions and not trying to consistently PvP. And if that's the direction the developers want to go, that's their thing. I'll still buy Dark Souls, the Dark Souls series. I still love the single player. The games won't last as long. The replayability will kind of turn to crap. But, if that's a design philosophy, that's fine. But if you're going to do that, we should probably not make the Brotherhood of Blood / the Blue Sentinels require 500 PvP wins to max out that covenant. Like, come on, guys. Like, if you're not going to pay any time to the PvP, really, if you're not going to provide true servers, if you're not going to provide the things that would make it a quality experience, if you're not interested in the balance, if you're not interested in these things, and these are the things that, as a developer, you're not going to pay attention to in your design cycle, and you want to make weapon power based on rarity of the weapon, i.e. Monastery Scimitar, that's, I can live with that. Just don't make these covenants around PvP that are half-baked and half-supported. Like, it's a waste. And don't implement idiot mechanics like soul memory, which we'll talk about at the end. Okay, so the way to counter the infinite stun locks is you have to wear Ring of Thorns / Old Sun Ring / have lots and lots of HP, and then they'll run out of stamina before you die, hopefully. But most builds can't afford to get tons of PvP, but that's another thing entirely. Let's talk about the fact now. I understand that Dark Souls 1 was a backstab fishing fest, and I got a little tired of it, but it was a thing, love it or hate it, and I was not sorry to see it go. I think the backstab animation now, where you have to kind of do the hit him in the back of the head thing to initiate the animation, that was a great change. I mean, I think that fixed the entire BS problem, was giving you a window to roll out of a BS, provided you didn't have yourself trapped in an animation. I mean, what a brilliant fix. So while we had to include stuff like armors that prevent backstabs, i.e. Jester's Robe, that's stupid. Like, there should not be an armor that completely negates backstabs. And the Jester's Robe is not even heavy armor, man. I mean, I know there's like the turtle shell armor that is ironclad armor, that is heavy and does prevent backstabs. I mean, I think that they could have done a lot more with that armor. Like, if it was going to prevent backstabs, I think it should have slowed your movement or made it so you couldn't roll. I don't know. I think they could have had fun with it. Maybe your backstab becomes like a falling crush on players. I mean, there's a lot of cool things they could have done with that. But they didn't do anything cool. They just said these armors prevent backstabs and that's their effect, and have fun. Gower's Ring of Protection makes a phantom right on your back, essentially. Kind of cute and kind of funny, but a ring that completely prevents backstabs. Kind of balanced in the fact ring slots are pretty precious in this game, and kind of balanced by the fact it weighs a lot. But ultimately, I just think the whole premise of having rings and armor that prevent backstabs is foolish. Reducing backstabs, I think, would have been fine. Like, if you're using a heavy weapon, you're liable to get backstabbed now and again. And having things to reduce that armor, that seems reasonable. Having things to negate that armor, that seems like stupid design choice, to me at least. Poise? Poise is essentially useless. It's a stat that 99% of players, these are made up statistics of course, but it's a stat that most serious players have learned to ignore because it doesn't mean anything. The people that still worry about their poise are the people that still live in the Dark Souls 1 era and haven't figured it out. How do I feel about the poise nerf? I'm kind of impartial. I think that in Dark Souls 1, poise was one of the #1 reasons that everyone ran around in Giant's armor or Havel's armor. But that doesn't really change anything because now people still wear Giants and Havel's armor. It's just now they don't have poise. So is that necessarily a bad thing? I don't know. I think there is a way to do poise right as a mechanic. I don't think the premise is flawed. I think that you can do a lot with poise that will be good. But it just doesn't seem to be something the developers have figured out. They went from it being probably the defining characteristic of armor in Dark Souls 1 to being a completely useless statistic in Dark Souls 2. So no balance, all in or all out, right? Demon Souls didn't have poison. It was, to me, Demon Souls probably had a better PvP experience than Dark Souls 2, and Dark Souls 1 had a better experience than both by far. But once again, that's just me. That is preference. I'm not trying to substantiate that with evidence. I'm just saying personally I've enjoyed it. I would substantiate Dark Souls 2 as the least polished and worst of the 3 games for PvP, which is kind of the point of this commentary. Before we hit to the big soul memory thing, I want to kind of hit my laundry list of gripes and concerns. These are things that I probably couldn't rationalize as necessarily a terrible thing, so much as I'm stating that I think they're poor choices, and I think many would agree, not necessarily that it's objectively bad, so much as it's just, silly to me. So, the invasion system that requires, the cracked orbs that you cannot use, like a whole orb that doesn't involve cracked, that kills me, man. Like, you want me to do 500 Brotherhood of Blood or 500 Blue Sentinels, and I have to keep buying these orbs or farming these orbs? Like, come on, man. It's Dark Souls games. Like, if I want a PvP, I don't want to grind. It's the opposite. If I wanted to go PvP and grind, I could play games based around PvP. I could go play WoW. There's a lot of things I could do. I mean, none of them are true solutions to the problem, but it's an acknowledgement of the fact that the Souls games, there is a lot of fun in customizing and building your character. Unless you're a muler, which most people are. Most people will justify that with 1,000 reasons I think are BS. I think if you're muling, you're cheating. Sorry. If you acknowledge you're cheating, that's a step in the right direction. But anyway, that's my take on the whole orb thing. Like, not having whole orbs and having these huge high covenant rewards to max out covenants, that seems stupid to me with this half-baked PvC system, with this difficulty of invading, with these lame-o mechanics. Like, they could have done so much more. I mean, I know this is like a downer commentary, but I think the title probably gave that away, and it's safe to say for me to go on the record and say I think the Dark Souls 2 PvP is garbage, and not a whining topic. I still play Dark Souls 2. If you enjoy the PvP in Dark Souls 2, no one's stopping you from playing it. But once again, if you're watching this video, I've come in to share why I think the PvP sucks. That's kind of like the flame shield on defense. All right, and lastly, I want to talk about the dreaded soul memory. I've talked about this in other videos, and I think the myths and stuff like that are finally dispelled. I think people finally accept that soul memory is as bad as we thought it would be. I mean, when the soul memory thing first came out, when it was soul level was finally revealed that soul level had nothing to do with the PvP, nothing significant, everyone immediately jumped from one defense to the other. The first defense was, we just don't fully understand soul memory. It could be really good. Maybe FromSoft had a great matchmaking system and we're all just jumping the gun and living in the Dark Souls 1 era. Okay, then it turns out that no, this isn't a revolutionary mechanic, it's garbage. So the next thing becomes, well, this is still good because it'll keep people matching with people of similar level. Not really. Because then efficiently spending your souls becomes a huge deal. Dying a couple times early game and missing your bloodstain, like, you're now gimped for the rest of the character's life cycle until you reach the highest soul bracket memory. Because there's brackets for these memories, of course. And after you reach, I think it's over 12 million or something like that, I don't remember the exact number. Once you reach over a certain number of souls, everybody can get matched with everybody. So if you're like level 300, you're not going to get matched with 800s. And believe me, that happens a lot. Personal experience is a thing, I'm sure, but you can watch a streamer, you can play yourself. Eventually you're going to run into the experience of running into the same builds over and over, because it turns out that once you have maxed all your stats, things don't really have weaknesses anymore. I mean, you could take, the biggest culprit of this is the Havel armor, because it's balanced by the fact it weighs a crap ton and you can't roll and stuff in it, and it's a moderate reason not to wear it. It's a legitimate thing. It reduces your stamina recovery, etc. That's not really a thing at max soul level. When you have 99 vitality, that's not a thing. When you have 99 of every stat, there's no reason not to do mundane infusion, 99 every stat. Like, there's no reason not to use dual avalence. Once everything is max level, there's no reason to really use anything else. You can do it for preference or your cool factor, your swag souls, like I do. And once again, that's fine, but I don't really feel like it's good game design for everybody to just grind out towards the max level. The argument people have against that is grinding to the max level takes a lot of time and it rewards hard work. Not really. It's actually really easy to max your level without cheating. Bonfire Ascetics plus the Giant Lord make that pretty easy. The Giant King, the last boss of the game. It's not the last boss of the game. The boss of the Giant Memories, we'll put it that way. He's easy. You can farm him down with Soul Geyser in literally less than 2 minutes a run if you get comfortable with it. And you can get tons and tons of souls extremely quickly. So getting to max level or a level where you're completely OP doesn't take long at all. Or you just use a mule account. And I'm not going to hold the developers responsible for other players using mule accounts, but if the developers are going to make no effort to prevent it, make absolutely no effort to control the cheating, then some of that's on them for not maintaining a quality experience. I think that's fair. They're not responsible for players ruining their own experience, but they are responsible for not trying to preserve, their community. But whatever, it's a single-player game at heart, so they're probably just not all that worried about it. Let's talk a little bit more about soul memory. Obviously, the biggest problem is it forces everybody to essentially go to max level. And the immediate argument that everybody uses is it's all part of the Honor Brigade / Dark Souls ideology of these soul level metas. That's stupid. I should be able to level to whatever I want and do whatever I want. You can do whatever you want, man. Like, in Dark Souls 1, nobody forced you to stay in the soul level 120 to 125 bracket. No one forced that. That is just where most players chose to reside. And part of that was a cultural force. Part of that was the fact that that was, in fact, a very optimal level for build diversity. Part of it was based on about the soul levels you stopped at around the 100, about the end of new game was 100 to 120, depending on how much you farmed. Like, that's why that turned out to be a thing. No one was forcing you to stop there. But if I kept raising my level, I couldn't PvP with people anymore. It sucked, it wasn't fun. Yeah, it sucked and it wasn't fun because you're realizing that a lot of players who wanted to PvP regularly, like they wanted that to be their end game, like they wanted PvP for hours on end, they didn't want to run around with all max level characters. They didn't want to run around with do everything builds all the time. They weren't about that life, and thus it stopped. Unfortunately, in this game, that's not an option. We're forced to play with max level people, and it's a huge problem. I mean, there's always people in every thread that say they don't encounter it all that often. That's great that you don't, but many of us do. And it's just a lousy design philosophy. Soul memory did not work. It never worked. It didn't stop griefers either. It doesn't stop griefers because of A, glitchers. It doesn't stop griefers because of B, the fact that good players, like people that are really dedicated to griefing, they can go gear their character legitimately and keep their soul memory down. It happens all the time. The whole soul memory thing literally achieved nothing but worked to force most of the quote-unquote meta into a max level Haviland build. Because that's what you're going to see. You're going to see people using the top 5 weapons in the game with, the best armor in the game with no downside to anything because all the stats are maxed. It's really silly. If you're anyone that actually likes build diversity, if you're like somebody that likes to have sort of an identity to your build, that's just too bad. You have to play at a disadvantage literally every PvP match. So, not literally every, but literally every match where you encounter somebody who's 400 levels higher than you, you are at a huge disadvantage. Which brings up the next community argument, which is very common, and it is the good skill will always overcome bad players. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about, guys. Using that argument is nonsensical. Yes, I agree that skill trumps levels. Shocking, I know. But unfortunately, even if that's true, it doesn't stop good players from getting full stats. Like, you don't have to be that good to take advantage of having stats way higher than someone else. I mean, if you want to stop at soul level 150 and you want to let me go max level and you want to PvP with me, like, I might not be as good as you. I mean, using my own skill level, I am not an amazing PvPer, But I am good enough to understand that I have way more stamina than you, that I have way more HP than you, that I have way more defense. I have everything more than you. So I'm just gonna wear armor that doesn't let you backstab me, so that's not a method. I'm gonna have way more stamina than you, so I can roll through more things. I have better stamina management. It doesn't matter if you have better management. I still have so much more. I don't have to manage it that much to have better than you. Like, it's completely overpowered versus anyone that's not max level. It's not rocket science here. So the people cling to that defense as though they're going to use their overwhelming get good skills to completely crush the max level people. Like, no. It doesn't take long before the players that don't in fact suck to get their level up there too. And then what do? Well, then you get frustrated because your get good mentality isn't working. And now your 150 character is actually losing to my 800 character a lot because I reasonably beat most people at PvP. Okay, so get good, man. Time to max out your soul level. That's how it works. And that's how it's working and how it's going to end. That is the problem with the whole, my skill will trump your levels. That's true. Unfortunately, skill is not quantifiable. And there comes a point where the levels make a big difference. Then there's the whole argument of diminishing returns. The huge soul level difference only matters to a point because the returns start to drop off. I agree with that for a lot of stats. For a lot of stats, that's completely untrue. It never hurts to have less vigor. It never hurts to have less endurance. Raising attunement raises casting speed. That matters when you're going to spam Great Resonant Soul. Having max attunement allows you to have a ton of attunement slots without wearing a ring. Ring slots matter. I mean, the only way to counter half this meta is with rings, as I previously discussed. So if you have to wear a ritual band to have your spell slots, I have as many spell slots as you without a ritual band, which means I get to wear Ring of Thorns to counter infinite stun lock. You don't get to do that because you had to wear the ring. See, these little things make a difference. It really adds up to a much stronger character if the person knows how to design the character, if the person knows the advantage of having high levels. So yeah, I mean, once someone goes beyond the quote-unquote casual phase of PvP and actually has, a reasonable grasp of how things work, it really does matter. So that's my whole take on the issue with the argument of the diminishing returns, is that diminishing or not, they still make a big difference. And endurance never diminishes to the point it doesn't matter. Same with adaptability and the roll speed thing. The fact that roll speeds are not constant in Dark Souls 2, I think is a total failure of a design philosophy in the single player and the multiplayer. I think that me having to learn different roll timings or have some attacks that just aren't rollable because I didn't raise my agility, that's stupid. The roll weight system I thought was fine. I thought it would have been a better system if they changed the roll windows a little more. There was a lot of things they could have done, but keeping the rolling speed that's something closer to a constant, I think did a lot more for the game than trying to increase the quote-unquote diversity of the game by not. So, we're kind of quickly approaching the end of what I want to talk about. I know it's in downer commentary, and I've probably sort of been a little hostile in my words, but, I've read these threads a lot, and I think it's about time to sort of take off the gloves, actually just kind of tell people what's up. This is my take on the PvP. I'm going on different, big YouTubers like Jay Black, who I know used to watch my channel by his own admission, and I watch his still. And he says he's done with the PvP, and he immediately gets hit with the get good, the nonsensical arguments of get good. None of these legitimate, substantiated criticisms matter. What matters is your skill and you using your YouTube channel to entertain me and stuff like that. Guys, the system is broken. That's an objective statement. In another world, soul memory could have worked, but not in the way it's implemented now. There are so many better ways to do it, and there's so many ways to fix it as it is now. But there's been no efforts to fix it, man. It's kind of done. This is Dark Souls 2 PvP in a nutshell. A broken cluster of OP gear coupled with max level characters, coupled with no equality between levels and builds. I can't stress enough how deflated and fruitless the argument is of that people should be able to stop leveling wherever they want and level to whatever they want. They sure can, but they should be PvPing with people who have the same mentality, not having a 400 level advantage just because the developers don't understand basic mechanics. So That's going to take us to the boss fight and essentially the end of the commentary. I appreciate you guys sticking with me. This is not my usual style of commentary. I don't like to be overly critical of things, but sometimes someone has to respond to the things they're seeing. That's the nature of a community. And I am responding to the PvP requests. I am responding to the PvP analysis. This is my take on the thing. So now I'm on the record. We'll probably talk more about this later. Please share in the comments what you think. I'm interested in feedback. Remain civil. Civility is a big thing for me. If I don't see civility in the comments, I don't read them. So, thanks for watching. I appreciate your time. I'll see everyone next time.
This is my thing. I have not, but still I pray.